ERACoBioTech presentation. It's one where we, as a consortium of data management projects, will present what we can offer the ERACoBioTech program for data management. The webinar is going to take 3 parts really. The first is to actually address FAIRDOM, the details of the ERACoBioTech program and the requirements needed for data management planning. The second part will be about FAIRDOM, and then the third part will be about how you might be able to incorporate FAIRDOM into your ERACoBioTech projects if you have not yet got a data management solution in place, or if you want to augment your data management solution. So the ERACoBioTech full proposals require that a data management program is clearly budgeted. There's a data management template associated with it, checklist for which the FAIRDOM project produced on behalf of the ERACoBioTech program, and a detailed management plan will be required. In order to be able to be compliant with the H2020 FAIR data management plans and also national funder data management plans, as we can see in the list of actions needed from the ERACoBioTech documentation. To help, there's a data management checklist that the FAIRDOM project has produced in order to be able to help you. If you just go to our website, fairdom.org with a hyphen, and if you go to our Knowledge Hub, you'll find things that you need to know about data and model management, which will be a helpful checklist for you, and the checklists that have been proposed by ERACoBioTech were based on our checklists. Just to remind you a little bit about what goes into a data management planning checklist, there's some general requirements. So this is responsibilities, types of study, data, models, the volumes and life cycles, and so on. So what data will be collected or created as part of the study, are existing data being reused, and so on, some general points. And in particular, one should address issues to do with raw data. How much raw data do you think will be produced? Will all the raw data be collected? So what kind of archiving or removal do you do? So not all data will be actually retained, not all data is the same, and so on. And there's also what do we do with secondary and published data? So what kind of data processing do you foresee in the project? How much processed data will be produced? Can you make estimates, and so on? So this is all to guide the scaling of activity on data management. All these slides will be available after the webinar, and the webinar is being recorded. So you'll be able to have all of this detailed information, which of course I won't go into the excruciating every point here, just to give you some taste of what's needed to be recorded in your data management plans. You also may well have to deal with personal sensitive data, particularly medical data, or some of you may be working in industrial biotech, which requires intellectual property right information and handling. So you'll need to know and report what the data flow through project will be. So is it going to be aggregated data, so it's safe to share because nothing can be personalized, or is it going to be anonymized? Is it going to be pseudo-anonymized, or is it non-anonymized? This is actually very critical for the systems medicine style projects that may be entering into the second round of proposals. Particularly, you should be very clear about the organizational boundaries that have to be traversed by data, and this will vary quite a lot depending upon the countries that you're operating in. So it's really important to contact your local data protection officer and ethics commission so that you're very much aware about what the constraints are that you need to undertake. And as we say here, for example, German universities and other public organizations are subject to different data protection laws than enterprises, so it is quite tricky to deal with all these pan-country, pan-European projects. You will also need to be sure about your secure housekeeping. So have you got place efforts for data recovery, secure storage, and transfer of sensitive data. Now, the Horizon 2020 program is very directed around the notion of FAIR, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. So its data management planning, its data management plans therefore is very orientated around, can you make data findable? So is it documented and is there metadata management? Can you make it accessible? So how can you get hold of it? Can you make it interoperable, which is basically, are you using standards and standardized vocabularies in particular? And can you make the data reusable? So is it licensed appropriately? Is it available beyond the end of the project? How do you do quality assurance and so on? So this is a very detailed slide, but again, it'll be in the slide pack. So the FAIRDOM program is about findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable data, operations and models. It's very much set up around systems and synthetic biology. Originally, it was, I go into a little bit of history in a minute, and it's really about making the most of systems and synthetic biology projects, assets. So it's very orientated around supporting projects in managing their data, their models, their standard operating procedures, workflows, samples, publications, specimens, people, expertise, and so on. So it's really for data model management for all scales of projects. And it's has a number of stakeholders, not just research projects, but also for funders and for publishers, for national facilities and for trainers. And I'll go into all of these different aspects as I go through the webinar. The consortium has been running since 2008. It's made up of a series of partners across European and increasingly international boundaries. So a number of institutions have come together, funded originally through the European Research Infrastructure ISB, and a basket of Euronets and national programs, notably the liver programs, systems medicine, the Swiss systems biology, and the Euronets, SISMO and EuroSysApp. But since then, it's widened its remit considerably. So the consortium supports Euronets, it supports national programs, it supports national centres, and it supports European research infrastructures, notably ISB. It is also highly related to several Elixir nodes, for those of you who are familiar with the Elixir program, and I can talk about that later on. So the services that this initiative offer are fivefold. The first is it provides a software platform and tools that have been developed since 2007, 2008 and are well used. It uses these tools in order to be able to offer a customized project installations of those tools for software for data and model management, and it also manages a resource, a central public hub for projects. We currently have over 30 installations of customized local installations and over 50 projects using our central public hub, which we manage on behalf of projects. And feeding into this, we then have project stewardship and consultancy services and community activities, such as workshops and standard settings and policy making. So what we mean by managing project assets, we mean end-to-end data management and tracking of data metadata, but particularly around maintaining the experimental context of data and models and SOPs and or other assets, and linking and organizing them and helping you to decide what to keep. Recognizing that systems and synthetic biology isn't just about one kind of data, it's about all sorts of different kinds of data. It's about sample metadata, about sample management, it's about computational analytics, about increasingly workflows, models and so on, and how these are all interlinked together in order to be able to address a particular systems-orientated investigation. It's also about long-term retention of results and being able to exchange these amongst a collective. Every single one of the ERACoBioTech projects is a multi-site multi-nation enterprise where results have to be exchanged, both end results and working data, so across organizational boundaries. And we also need consistent reporting for interpretation, interoperability, and also reproducibility, we've already highlighted. So it's important for us to promote standardized metadata practices. But the whole system was built and designed based on the fact that already public tools and community archives are in place that are the deposition community archives for particular kinds of data. So, for example, biomodels, the models, PRIDE, proteomic data, and so on. So this all sits within this context, and but allows projects to be able to organize their metadata that they hold, but also be able to organize it from respect to when they deposit it into public community resources. So, as I said before, we actually fit a whole bunch of stakeholders. So funders are keen to see long-term retention of results beyond a project, because the ERACoBioTech funders want to be able to know what did the projects produce in order to be able to respond to due diligence requests. Publishers want to be able to say, well, is there a resource where I can get supplementary materials from arising from these projects? And trainers obviously want to be able to get hold of training information. We're interested in experimenters and modelers working together. So to be able to undertake this, and we've been doing this a long time, for nearly 10 years now, we've taken established software systems and basically brought the best of breed together. So we have a back-end system and a front-end system. The back-end manages on-site storage and large-scale analytics, and is built upon a well-established platform called OpenBiz from the Swiss Systems X project, notably from ETHZ. At the front end is about dissemination, it's about being a metadata cataloging, yellow pages, and a tool gateway to other tools. So it's very much a front-end sharing, organizing hub. And that's based on a platform built called Seek, which was built as part of a number of different Euronets, particularly designed around the notion of projects that have to be able to cooperate and collaborate, but also maintain the context of the metadata, the context of the experiment that they're undertaking. We've packaged all of this together and linked all of this together, and it's available to download in, for example, a modern container mechanisms, for example, like Docker. So let's have a little look at some of these pieces. So the back end deals with instrument data management, so we can take things right off the instruments. It has a LIMS-like facility, it has a note-like facility, it manages samples and protocols, it does large-scale data management and archiving, auto-archiving, and it also allows you to do big data analytics through pipelines and workflows on distributed compute platforms. So it's very much dealing with microscopy data, proteomic data, sequencing data, and being able to run that in-house in the projects, in the laboratory, in the institution. So OpenBiz colleagues are on the call in order to be able to answer questions. They are part of the FAIRDOM collective. The front end is a common space. It's sort of one-stop shop in order to organize assets. So it operates around like a kind of a hotel model, if you will. There's project-controlled spaces in it, so there's working spaces for projects and show spaces for communicating results, with a lot of control on the visibility of those spaces and the content in them to colleagues, so that we can have an incremental way of being able to share resources and results as the projects feel comfortable with them being more exposed. So the visibility controls, the sharing controls are very fine-grained and quite rich. It's also a mechanism for cataloging and bringing together all the different experimental outputs into one place, regardless of their physical location. organized around a structure called ISA, Investigation, Study and Assay Stroke Analysis, which is standards compliant. And I'll show an example of that. And it's linked with other systems because it's basically an Uber catalog linked to projects on-site secure repositories, for example, those managed by OpenBiz, but others, public deposition archives, and other integration with other tools such as JWS online modeling tools. So the idea is that you can take this hub and you can directly put your project content into a hub. You can stand up your own hub. You can also use something called the FAIRDOM hub. The FAIRDOM hub is a resource that we in FAIRDOM manage on your behalf. It's hosted at Heidelberg Institute Theoretical Studies. It's a long-term repository with a long-term commitment. It has private spaces so that projects can safely share and exchange and organize their metadata and upload data that they want to be able to retain for the long term or indeed share. And many projects directly use this resource as their sole resource for data management. But other projects choose to stand up this hub software for their own projects locally, that they manage it themselves. And some have a hybrid where they manage metadata in this hub environment themselves, and then they upload resources or metadata and data models and so on into this common public hub that then can be used by funders in order to be able to see who is doing what. Journals use it as a supplementary repository, and we can also use it as a gateway into the subject and data type archives. And all of these logos at the bottom, RE3 data, biosharing, all these, the Elixir tools registry, so on, have this FAIRDOM hub registered as a trusted repository. And there's a reference to a paper at the top there, so it's one place. So there's a kind of mixed economy that we offer, which gives you different value at different places for your data. So this reinforces the point that you may have a project that you want to be able to have very private sharing, where you set up your own installation of this hub, that there's local retention, you have some local skills for admin support, particularly big centres, large projects, national projects do this because they want very customized versions and they want very private sharing. The FAIRDOM public resource is often used for post-project retention, is a one-stop showcase. There's self-managed sharing amongst projects. You just run your own space. It's used as a supplementary materials resource. It has off-the-shelf features, and we host it for you, and we do all the administrative support and the sustainability. It's guaranteed until 2029. We allow 1 terabyte per project to be sourced centrally, so it's a kind of destination resource. But of course, much more is catalogued, and I'll go on to that shortly. So this gives you a little taste of it. This is the ERASys app program. So we have a number of programs, and the programs are organized into projects, and the projects are then organized into their assets, the institutions associated with them, the investigations and the studies and the data files and so on that are associated with them. And in fact, we have more than the list of numbers that I put at the bottom. So this is what the FAIRDOM hub looks like. And if you installed your own, then you would have a kind of your own customized version of this. So you can see all the different things that we allow you to register and organize in a very rich way in this hub environment. And this gives a screenshot of the way that we organize the metadata. So the metadata is organized as investigations, studies, and assays or analysis, where we link off the data models and standard operating procedures. And this is to just go in a little bit more detail. At the bottom, in this particular example, which is glucose metabolism of Plasmodium FAIRDOM, I can't say these things. This is from colleagues who are in South Africa who use this project. There's one project, 3 studies, 24 assays, 16 data files, 19 models, 13 standard operating procedures, and a publication. And all of this is encapsulated using and packaged together using a DOI to back that publication. So this whole entry into this, this particular study for this particular project is now an object that can be associated with a publication and retained for a publication. The metadata is organized really on 3 tiers. We structure it around this now almost de facto standard called ISA, which is widely used by the deposition data sets of the European Bioinformatics Institute. And we have something called the Just Enough Results model, which pulls together common elements and relationships between things used in experiments by studying all the different community standards and bringing them together. And then we have very specific elements for community standards drawn from models, but also drawn from the omics world, in particular, proteomics, metabolomics, and so on. We have within a partner project which is called BioSharing, there is a FAIRDOM list of standards associated with the systems and synthetic biology community, which we've organized with the BioSharing, so it's biosharing.org metadata catalog, which is the metadata catalog for standards operated by the Elixir European Research Infrastructure. And I'll put an indicator of that on this slide for when it's actually exchanged later. So I mentioned that this hub actually has a storing and cataloging and aggregation property. So what this means is that there can be external databases, there can be publishing services, secure stores, your store, modeling resources, but they don't all have to be uploaded to the hub. So the data doesn't have to actually be, or indeed the models don't have to be located. They can be elsewhere and then linked together. So this creates a very rich cataloging, but it gets over the problem of data that you want to be able to retain because it's secure, but you still want to indicate it exists. Data that is in a large-scale file store, for example, or an in-house store, which is too big to upload to a central hub, and also to link to prior results or your deposited results that have been deposited into other resources. And it's also, of course, a gateway to those other resources. So this is a very rich way of being able to keep the context and organize a systems or synthetic biology project without making it all one great big warehouse, which is not suitable for the actual discipline. And as I've suggested for sensitive data, if it's open data, one can register metadata and upload it to the hub, or you can register a link to it. You don't have to actually upload it. If it's closed data, then you would register the metadata and you'd register an access method and you would not upload it. So it's a matter of being able to say, this is where things are, this is how we've organized everything, this is what is we're working on, but you have to have authorization in order to be able to access it. So it's a communication activity. And for super closed data, then you might want to run your own hub and then be really channel very carefully the metadata that goes to the public one. And so you very much separate out working from publishing. Talking of which, publishing, we have this mechanism of snapshotting the content of a hub and being able to give it a DOI, so it becomes a object in its own right, which is called a research object. That means it can be packaged up into a number of different packaging formats. And we've worked with JWS Online, the model simulator and repository, and SED-ML database, which comes from the Rostock group, in order to be able to create one-click live figure reproduction of models in journals using the hub content, so that the data files and the model files can be linked to papers for these journals in order to be able to reproduce the models accurately in those articles. And we also offer a technical model curation service. So to bring it all together, really what we are trying to do is to support organization of data that's high throughput data as well as process data, to enable communication and then amongst the project partners, and then to support dissemination beyond the project partners, so to do deposition, publishing and the reuse aspect of the FAIR model. And so our collection of components of FAIRDOM allow us to populate that pipeline right the way from the large-scale high-throughput data through to a dissemination hub platform with a variety of different configurations available to you. Some examples of where that's happened. Here is an old example. These projects have been going for quite some while, and this is a project that ended in 2010, which was part of a previous ERANet, and the publication of a paper emerged from 2014-15 using data collected from 2012. Now, because we as FAIRDOM managed the metadata and the data for this project, as well as all the models in our centralized repository, once the project had disbanded, people were still being able to use it, and it was still retained well beyond the lifetime of the project, meaning that work could continue and publications could ensue after the fact. In fact, this is a logo cloud of projects associated with that ERANet, and all of these projects with ticks still continue to actively use and contribute, and still are contributing, data, metadata, models, and other assets that using our FAIRDOM Hub public repository, because we are there, because we're able to look after their data for them. Another kind of way that the platform is being used, this is Imomesic, which is a Eurosys app project around applications in liver cancer. And there they have an antibody database, their own. They're using one of our helper systems, which is a metadata collection system using spreadsheets. They're using the OpenBiz part of our platform in order to be able to store and analyze mass spec data, and they use the FAIRDOM Hub, so this is our public repository, in order to be able to do the sharing, organization events, managing their projects, and supporting their collaboration across their wide collection of partners. So this shows the sort of mixture of resources that that particular project uses. Another project is, which isn't part of ERANet, it's a national program, is the Digital Life program in Norway, and here the Digital Salmon project, which is run by the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, is again using, actually very similar to Imomesic, an OpenBiz and combination of the FAIRDOM Hub, in order to be able to organize their Digisal and GenoSysFat projects. This program requires integration with the Norway's National E-Infrastructure for Life Sciences. So National E-Infrastructure for Life Sciences, which is managed by the Elixir Norway node for managing data, doing data management for life sciences. they have a national infrastructure for managing files, but they have no metadata mechanism. Whereas here, we are able to provide a very rich metadata mechanism, rich cataloging mechanism that sits on top of that national file store. And then finally, as examples, we have virtual library programs in Germany and synthetic biology centres in the United Kingdom. And they use their own very stylized, very customized installations of the software, because they're doing quite a sophisticated virtual organ type work. And in the synthetic biology world, these are very much tied to sample generation and sort of build and test cycles, pipelines in the synthetic labs. So these have been highly configured and linked with tools like the parts and devices repositories of ICE, the lab archives, which is a form of electronic lab notebook, lab collection mechanisms, and other kinds of mechanisms, other kinds of resources. We offer a number of support tools and data curation support. We particularly support metadata-orientated collection through spreadsheets. So we have quite a lot of rich spreadsheet tooling. So if most of our laboratories, most of our projects have a heavy use of spreadsheets in various different ways, and we recognize that, and we provide quite a lot of spreadsheet tooling in order to be able to support rich metadata collection. We also have done quite some work on samples. Samples is very important for all of our projects. So we've done work on very flexible template descriptions for samples, metadata handling across our entire software stack for samples, generation of templates for different sample types, automated extraction of sample metadata from spreadsheets, and high throughput sample referencing and metadata migration between our different back-end and front-end components. We also, through our partners, JWS Online, who are based chiefly in South Africa, we offer a model curation activity. So we plugged in SBML model simulation, model versioning, reproducible simulations, and model comparison tools into the FAIRDOM hub. That's our main resource that we support on behalf of projects. And we also offer a curation service. So we will curate your SBML model and check it from a technical point of view, but not from a scientific point of view. So that leads into the last few slides, where we have a range of project support services that we offer: training, consultancy, installations and customizations. So we help folks with deploying the technical platforms and choosing the right solutions, working with researchers and technicians to design the right procedures and understand what you already have, because most people have some sort of data management already in place. We also do training of researchers and students. We, of course, maintain and manage all of these different platforms and maintain and manage on behalf of the community the FAIRDOM Hub. And we help promote projects through the FAIRDOM Hub as a resource for promoting, but also through other activities. We're very active in European and national policy making, and we have a sort of seat at the table of various different organisations. That means that we're able to promote beyond just the resources and tools that we're offering here. Of course, this all costs money, and so we have 3 tiers of project support. We have a sort of standard project support, which is effectively subsidised by current grants, which enables you to use the FAIRDOM Hub and the resources that are just available through our website. You pay your way in any community activities we operate, like training programs and workshops. It's a do-it-yourself local installation with some help desk, and you're on your own curation and sustainability. So if you install everything locally and you are just on a standard service package, then it's up to you to do your own curation, to do your own installations, and to do your own customizations. Our premium and super premium services, however, are direct support. So the ERAC's app program right now has all its projects are currently on premium. So they have direct support, they have in-house installation support, they have a full customer service, they have extensive training, they have extensive curation support. The super premium are those, for example, in the synthetic biology centres and virtual liver network, where there's extensive tailoring and extensive customisation with dedicated services. And so that's a very highly customised installation and support regime. For premium, it depends on how many partners to some extent, but largely it depends upon the complexity of your data management needs and also what data management you already have in place. So we normally say 5% of the total proposal budget, or 20 to 40 days of consultancy per annum. But for those projects that really have no large-scale data management and need, for example, installation of our back-end, that can go up. For super premium, where it's extensive tailoring, then it's a per project negotiation. And of course, if local storage and local servers and local licenses and so on have to be also costed into your program. Just a final couple of slides about how the consortium works. We have an association, which is a legal entity based in Germany, which can be used as a subcontractor. We have facilities then, which are institutional entities which have national identities, and there's the institutions that make up through a agreement, a partnership, in order to be able to deliver these resources through the association. And we are funded by core grant awards, auxiliary grant awards, and contributions from the organisations who are our members. And currently we're bringing on board Elixir Norway, for example, as a member, and our Slovenian colleagues are also highly connected to us. We currently have Manchester, Edinburgh, Heidelberg Institute of Theoretical Studies, the University of Leiden, and ETHZ as full partners, but we also have in our community, we also have the University of Stellenbosch, Rostig, and others who form part of the consortium. The rules of ERACoBioTech consortium arrangements are quite complicated. I noted that something like 19 projects fell foul of the rules in the first round, in that they were excluded as ineligible because they didn't look at the rules. So the rules are really important. And so the rules have to be studied carefully in order to be able to be sure how to incorporate partners and how to incorporate collaborators into the programs. For more useful information, we have a URL here, which will be in the slide pack. And if you want to contact us, then please get in touch with community@fairdom.org, or if you want to talk directly to somebody, then I have 3 names here, but we also have a proposal support on our website. And that's the conclusion, and I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, so I think at this point we have some written questions, but if anybody else wants to ask a question, then there should be a little hand where you can raise your hand, and I'll unmute you when I see a hand raised. But to start with, I'll start with just some written questions. Just a couple from Michael Richter, who I'll now just unmute. And Michael's asking, How should the budgeting look like? And isn't it enough to describe person months in the work packages for data management? But Michael should be able to speak now.
Hello, Michael. Hello, Michael. I can't hear him.
No.
So I'll just go ahead with the questions. So the budgeting is actually for data management. There is person months associated with it, of course, that you can set aside, as I'll go back to that slide about services. So person months can be set aside from the point of view of consultancy. So how many person months are being set aside in order to be able to get this kind of support. Other costs depend upon the configuration of your data management plan. So if you're planning on a great deal of local storage and local servers, then you have to also cost that into your data management plan. If you have a need for specialist licenses, you also have to put that into your data management plan. And you may also want to be able to plan, for example, for training. If you want to be able to bring on board, which we would strongly recommend, that there were people on the program, in the actual project, who would be identified as data management advocates. We call them PALs, who will be trained through our consultancy in order to be able to be brought up to speed on how to do the installations, how to use the metadata, how to do the designs, people who we would directly interact with in order to be able to build the procedures and protocols. It's the procedures and protocols and the metadata design that's particularly challenging with data management. So it is person months to some extent, but there are these other costs that have to be taken into account as well. And again, it very much depends upon the situation that you find yourself in, Michael. Have you already got a data management? Well, we can just start that if you want. Did that answer the question?
We're not hearing anything.
Okay. Is there another question, Stuart?
Yeah. Got a couple of other questions. Michael's just replied to say yes in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I can't see that. Yeah, okay.
So we've got a couple more questions from Katerina Kankar. So I'll unmute. Hello, Katerina.
Hello.
Hello, Katerina.
So the questions were, I'll just read them out, is what data size is too big for the FAIRDOM hub and how long is data retained at the FAIRDOM hub?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So the FAIRDOM hub is it can take, for each project, we set aside 1 terabyte of data space. Now, it's really designed for process data and data where you intend to be able to exchange that data, data that you've decided to retain, data that you intend to disseminate. And 1 terabyte is usually enough for that. We're not talking about mass spec data coming straight off the instruments. We wouldn't expect to store that in the FAIRDOM hub, and neither, I suspect, would you. You'd expect to store that locally. And in order to be able to take that on board, that's why we also allow you to, if you wish, to use the FAIRDOM hub as a Uber catalog from the point of view of that kind of data. We allow you to reference it rather than upload it and store it. So you have up to 1 terabyte. How you wish to use that 1 terabyte, we recommend that you don't do it all as one file. You do it as small files. For retention purposes, retention is guaranteed to 2029, which is 12 years from now, which comfortably sees out the 10-year requirement for the program. But we anticipate actually going beyond that, but we will say 2029 is our absolute concrete guarantee. And we have this as a guarantee from the Heidelberg Institute of Theoretical Studies foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We also, of course, because we link to other repositories, we also encourage deposition through the hub into the major archives of the European Bioinformatics Institute. And because we're organized around the ISA structure, which increasingly is what is being adopted by the European Bioinformatics Institute, and in fact, their new biostudies framework, which sits on top of most of the OMIC databases, is organized around that, then this gets you ready in order to be able to do that deposition. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
We have a kind of follow-on question from that, from Nadaf Bar, who I'll unmute now.
Hello, Nada.
Hey, good day. I just wondered if I want to upload the data we generate in the project to this 1 terabyte. Is this part of the standard services? Do we have to pay for that? Or because we have plenty of data in my university. So the question is whether we have to pay for this service to upload the data.
Okay, of course I'm encouraging you to always pay, because somebody has to pay. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, this data management is free, like puppies are free, except the puppies are free. Puppies are not free. You actually do, somebody has to pay for them at some point. So if you wanted to just use the FAIRDOM hub and you didn't want any other help, then it's currently subsidized by other funding activities. So yes, you can have it without paying any kind of consultancy. We don't actually charge a fee. However, we would of course encourage you to be able to prevail of our consultancy services to help you with your metadata management and help you set up your metadata project within the FAIRDOM hub. But plenty of folks do it independently, particularly small projects do it independently. And if you've got very small data, it's really quite straightforward. We designed it so it's actually quite straightforward to do. So the short answer is yes, but I'd rather you paid, if you see what I mean.
Yes, I understand. It's because in ERANET it's a network of partners, so there is always a question of who pays what. But I understand.
Well, I'm extremely familiar with ERANETs. I've worked with ERANETs for 10 years, and also I attended every single one of the ERACoBioTech planning meetings and the kickoff meeting. So I am very much aware of the structure of ERANET and the complexity therein. I know that it's very tricky, and we cannot offer any general advice. It's impossible to offer general advice. So if I went to this slide, the rules, we have 21 national funders. Each one has its own regulations. The consortia is 3 to 6 partners or 3 to 8 partners. If you're including somebody from Argentina or Spain, they have to be from 3 different countries. Each one has different funder principles to do with subcontracting and so on. So when we've helped in the past, really it comes down to we will work with each project, see what are your project needs and what is the configuration of your consortia and which countries are you actually working with in your consortia. Because as you say, it's tricky. We know that, and that's why we're making this proposal consultancy available. So we're actually helping out. So we offer pre-proposal consultancy, in-flight project consultancy, including startup, and post-project cleanup and retention work, where we help you tidy up all your outcomes and make sure that they're retained. And that actually has worked very well with previous projects, where really the projects who are still able to still access the data that arose from their programs and still able to actually use that material in publications, and the reviewers and the funders can still see the results. They're the ones that actually availed themselves of our services and migrated their results into the FAIRDOM Hub. Any other questions?
Yes, we've got one more from Alpa Karakaya, who is on a phone. I'm not sure how to unmute. So I'll read the question now. I've sent a pin. There's a button to click to send a pin, but I think that Alpa needs to type into the phone. But I'll read the question out now. It's, we are offering a consortium which will be coordinated from Turkey. However, ERACoBioTech doesn't support such services. What is your alternative solution for the consortiums who don't have a budget by coordinator side?
Oh, so is this presumably then is a consortium that has no funder who supports any kind of sort of data management activity or support. Well, you presumably have more than one country though. It won't just be Turkey. It'll be there'll be at least 2 other countries involved. So there'll be at least 2 other partners, and so we'd have to see which countries they were, because most countries actually do support some sort of data management aspect to their proposals. Some consortia have gone into partnership directly with one of the FAIRDOM institutes in order to be able to, so they have them as a partner. Others are kind of subcontracting, and it depends upon the arrangements of the consortium and arrangements of the funders of that consortium. So I'd have to look in detail to your proposed consortium in Turkey to see what could be done. It could be you end up with a consortium that is not ideal from the point of view of funding any kind of data management service, but we'd have to take a look and see if we can help you with that. I'm sorry I can't be more specific, but I need to actually have a look at the details and see what you mean. I'm not so familiar with Turkey. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, so we've got one final question, which is a nice simple one, which is, are you going to be sharing the presentation slides, and if so, when?
Yes, we will share the presentation slides off the website, off our FAIRDOM website. Immediately after this presentation, I spotted one spelling mistake. There's a prize for anybody who also spotted spelling mistakes. So when I've cleaned that up, I will be putting up the slides. This webinar is also going to be available at the same place. We also have developed some boilerplate text to help proposers write their data management plans if they want to write FAIRDOM into the plans to help you guide. And we've also produced checklists, and we will be adding to these frequently asked questions, checklists and boilerplate text as we get questions, so that people can see what they can write. It's quite hard writing a data management plan. It's convincing, and I know it's not something that many people are not trained to do, so we're here to help. It is only 8,000 characters, but we've written text that you can cut and paste. So all of that will be available from the FAIRDOM website, which will be clearly signposted from the front page of fairdom.org.
Okay, and there is actually just one last technical question from Nadav again, who I can unmute, I think, but it's, do we upload our data and context to Seek through the front end or the back end? And I think the answer to that is you can upload through the front end through a web browser, but also we have OpenBiz at the back end.
That's right, you can. And as Stuart, who is currently handling the call today, is our lead developer, and he's easily able to answer that question.
Yeah.
So we've designed it from both ends. We try to be as flexible as possible. We designed this very much from the point of view of ERANET, where the participants in the ERANETs drove the design. So what I didn't mention is that we operate a group called the PALs for projects, and these projects, PALs, are kind of like ambassadors and favoured members of projects. They are kind of key folk. They create a focus group, and this focus group is what drives what happens to the development of the system. So it's very much designed for people working, systems and synthetic biologists working in these projects. It's not been designed around sort of we're going to build a big database and then everybody will have to use that big database. It was very user driven and it still remains so. Hence the strong emphasis on using spreadsheet tooling, hence the emphasis of being able to put metadata in from back end and also from the front end, hence the emphasis of being able to link to things already pre-existed, hence the emphasis on things like standard operating procedures and yellow pages of colleagues in projects, because these were what were seen to be critical and important from these expert focus group users that we call PALs, who actually have to really do the data management on a daily basis in their projects. Any other questions?
No, I think that's it now. There's no more questions.
Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found it useful. And please do get in touch with us, and we will put these slides up momentarily onto the website. Thank you.